So we're going to try and do 5 tips for people thinking about a discus tank. Things to consider before you start. First things first, size of your tank. These fish, I reckon, about 25 litres per adult fish when they're grown, you know, up to 50. The less litres per fish, the more water changes you're going to have to do, the more difficult it will be. It will be easier with more water per fish, but it will also be easier with more fish because they're sociable things. They like to be in a group. Look at them there, we're having a cuddle. So it's a balancing act of the biggest tank you can get for the number of fish you want, and also the bigger the tank, the more stable your water's going to be. So first tip, get the biggest tank that you can. Second tip, these are messy fish. As you can see, this was cleaned yesterday and it's already in a bit of a mess, but it gets cleaned twice a week. We'll come to that later for the 5th tip. But second tip, big filters. This has got 2 big filters. You can't really see there because my lights aren't on. But that cupboard is full of an Eheim 1200, and there's another one that side. And there is also a top sump up here with plants in which suck the nitrates out. So this water gets dirty quick. There's a lot of food going in there. They make a lot of mess. You need big filters. The bigger the filters, the more media you can have, the less chance you have of any ammonia spikes or anything like that going wrong. So tip number 2, get the biggest filters you can afford. You won't regret it. Normally you get what you pay for. The cheaper filters won't last long. They'll leak, they make noise. The most noise you can hear from this tank is the air pumps. There's 2 air pumps coming out both sides. So if we listen, there's hardly any noise. There's just a bit of a hum. So, second tip, big filters, very important. Third tip is water. Most discus breeders tell you these can live happily in tap water. They probably can, but I had loads of problems, and all of those problems disappeared when I started using RO water. You can control your pH, you can control your KH, the nitrates are 0. Tap water, it varies. It has all sorts of weird stuff in that you don't want in your fish tank. You can't control the phosphate, so you'll get algae. RO, it made it easier. I know it's a bit more of a faff, but it makes it easier. And I've cured most of my fish problems since I started to get RO. No, not going to lie, there are still a couple of issues in this tank. I mean, I've got a bit of weird algae there. I should have cleaned the glass before I did this video, but I didn't. So these fish, super happy. They're loving the discus minerals in the RO water. So third tip, if you've got bad tap water and you don't want RO, you can't keep these fish, in my opinion. You'll have lots of problems. If you want to keep them and make it easy, I would definitely think about at least a HMA filter, or definitely go down the RO route, because as I said before, that fixed all my troubles. 4th tip is maintenance. If you don't enjoy cleaning your tank and doing the actual maintenance and it becomes a chore, this isn't going to work. You have to do this twice a week at least. You have to do it every week. You can't skip it unless you're on holiday for your time. You've really got to be regular, and you've really got to not skip stuff, and you've really got to look after them. So hoovering that sand every time you clean it. I change 20% of this water twice a week, so that's 100 litres twice a week, and that seems to work for, I think there's 12 fish in here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, 14 fish in here in 500 litres. So I think that was, I've not done the maths, 30 something litres per fish. So we're pushing it a little bit, plus there's some other fish in there. But this seems to balance quite well with the amount of maintenance I do, the amount of water I change, the number of fish I've got, and the size of the tank that's in here, and the size of those filters. All of those things link together as to whether this works well, or you get some kind of problem because something's not doing it enough, or you're not doing enough of that. So it's all a big balancing act of getting all those factors right. So 4th tip, maintenance. Wipe the glass down every time you clean it. Don't skip stuff. Vacuum the tank, change the water, do it regularly. You won't be sorry. Those filters use the KH up. KH disappears, the pH crashes, you get into problems. So if I don't change the water regularly enough and the KH drops too low, the pH starts to slide and it all starts to go wrong. So again, it's a balancing act of replacing those things that have been used up in the water to a level to keep everything stable. And the fifth tip, feeding them. There's tons of things you can feed. You can feed beef heart, you can feed granules, you can feed bloodworms. I don't feed those. I don't know what the answer is on the bloodworm argument, but I don't feed them anymore. You can feed freeze-dried blackworms, they'll go mad for that. But if you feed the same thing over and over and over and over again, some fish like some things, some fish don't like others. Half of these will eat granules, half of them won't. Most of them will eat beef heart, some of them won't eat that. He will only eat freeze-dried blackworms at the moment, which to be fair he's doing all right on, but I've never seen him eat anything else, and he's still quite huge. So the key thing is mix it up. Feed them 3 different things a day. You can give them a mussel from the fishmongers if you want. I defrost a mussel, chuck it in, they'll eat that. So vary the food all the time, then you won't hopefully end up with one fish that doesn't eat, and that will be a problem. Make sure they all get some of it as well, so spread it around when you chuck it in. The bigger ones, like these, will get to it first, so put some in for them. Once they've gone and got busy with that, put something in for the quieter ones who are a bit more shy, and then they'll get a chance to get to that. So 5th top tip, feeding. Do it regularly, do it often. Don't overdo it though, because that's the worst thing you could do. So again, it's a balancing act of making sure they all get some, but don't go too mad that your tank water gets dirty. And if you follow those 5 tips, hopefully you'll do all right. But definitely think about all those things before you even think about buying one of these fish.